Okay, gang, from the last video, the motor was leaking some oil pretty bad, and starter motor was making a lot of noise on my 55 Porsche. So let's take a look. This is a really dirty motor. I probably put 50,000 miles on it, maybe, God, 2005 to now, maybe even more. Good and dirty, but it's lubricated. So we're taking the motor out. I'll tell you a little about how to do that. I'm going to powder coat all this exhaust and all these panels so they don't look like shit, and give it a little bit more life. Yeah, you can see how that's rusting up already. So we're going to powder coat all that stuff. And that is a motorcycle stand that I use to pull the motor out with. We'll come back around over here and take a look what we got. So there's actually just 4 bolts to remove the 912 motor or 356 motor or your Volkswagen motor. If you look really closely here, you can see those teeth unfortunately are chewed up. What happened is the battery started going south and not putting up enough energy power to the starter motor, high torque starter motor that I have, and just wore out and just chewed that fucker up. So no big deal. We're gonna go ahead and pull that off, send that out to a fellow out in California that does flywheels for Porsche. And so there's one of the bolts. There's a second bolt, and a third one would be there. A fourth one would be there. This was probably the worst one. I think I'm gonna somehow secure it so I'm not trying to wrestle it by, it was the last bolt to pull, so I'm not going to try to wrestle it by lifting the engine up and down to kind of like hold that bolt in place while I undo the 17mm nut. You can see these heater box parts are needing paint, so we're going to do all that and make it a good looking motor that we can get a lot more mileage out of. And I got this motor from Gary Emery back in 2005. Great guy, parts obsolete, highly recommend him. He'll always willing to help you with anything Porsche. And so we'll take a look here. There's the transmission. This old car really just needs a lot of work, but you know, hey, it's running. So the things to do when you're pulling the motor, first of all, take pictures of everything, just so you remember what order stuff went in, unless you're some master mechanic and know which wire is what. Take pictures, know where the wires are going when you put them back in. Save you a couple of days worth of frustration. There is the fuel line. And it goes all the way back to there. I'm just going to undo it right at the engine, right at the carburetor. And there is a linkage right here. We're going to undo that before we, of course, we drop the motor. And there, that is my problem bolt right there. That guy would spin as I was taking it off. Probably a good solid hour trying to take that son of a bitch off. You can see that metal shaving from the failed high torque starter, taking out some of the ring gear. And that's that for this car. So we're going to clean all this up and have a really neat car when we're done again. And to get to these bolts, you got to take this top piece off, and then that takes the starter motor off. And there's your fuel line that I just took off right there. And what else can we show you? Oh wow, you can really see there how bad the teeth have been chewed off. But shit happens. I've done these with Alfa Romeos and Mercedes-Benz and what have you, so You know, it's just work. I'm gonna have that all painted up neat. That'll look really sharp. And God, the car just needs lots of paint over rust paint, blasting, what have you. I like to use these kind of jacks, and I also use the car jack and wooden blocks. And that way, there's absolutely 100% no way that thing's going to fall down and hit me or anybody else today. So there is the motor. And then inside this shroud is the oil radiator, which I suspect was the major culprit in leaking all over the place. And yeah, that's all working. Some people like to plate these things. They look really neat when you do that. And there's that linkage that we had to undo to get the motor out. Otherwise it's just going to break and bend, and there you go, expensive shit again. And there's another view of those teeth. See how chewed they are. Bummer, dude. Shit happens. And we're going to get a high pressure hose, high pressure wand, and high pressure clean the engine. Lots of work. That's a good, solid, honest engine. And so there it is, up off the ground. If I didn't have to struggle with that one bolt, I think I would have had the motor out in probably an hour. And that's using just a 17 millimeter. And 17 millimeter. Okay, so let's take a look at the 59 Ponton I'm working on. So last week I tried to fire it up, and after putting all the hoses back on and radiator and and wouldn't start, but everything else seemed to want to work. So there is our starter motor, and this also takes a 17 millimeter bolt here and here. I would probably try to see if you could put a 17 millimeter here, but you know, grind it down so it's a 15 so you can put a socket on it, because it's a real bastard trying to take it off with just a wrench, because you can't really fit a socket on it. And then once you get it out of there, you can see where it goes. It just sits right down in there. Once you get it out of there, in order to get that out, you have to take this assembly off with one bolt, and it sits right here. If you take that off, you can just lift that son of a bitch right out. And it is a really heavy starter motor. It's very, very heavy. It's a Bosch. And there's a shop down in Van Nuys that rebuilds these. And I really am very impressed with their work. So I send all my my stuff down there. I'll post that that link on my description for you, because they do fantastic.